Going on YouTube, Cloverbells here, back with another Series 12 team building video, and today we're looking at Lunala Groudon, also known as Lunadon. So this is an interesting one, right? Because we know what Calyrex Shadow and Groudon can do, but what about the other way? What about Lunala Groudon? So it almost has similar trouble with the same thing like Calyrex Shadow, in the sense that you're weak to those ghost type attacks. You are weak to Calyrex Shadow, right? And you also have that Yveltal weakness. But there are ways that you can get around those weaknesses and help support the squad, where you can be just fine. And the thing with Lunala that it can do that Calyrex can't do is, first of all, be bulky. You have that Shadow Shield ability, which allows you to take a big hit. And then you are a aggressive Trick Room setter, because if you look at the format right now and you look at all the Trick Room setters, they don't really offer that much offensive pressure. Like Dusclops, what is that going to do? Mimikyu, what's that going to do? And the list can go on. But the Lunala, on the other hand, can actually do quite a bit of damage. Base 137 special attack is not bad at all, and if you give it the Power Herb item, with the Meteor Beam move, then it does really well. So then the question is, well, can I Dynamax this? Well, yes, you can, but more often than not, you probably won't be Dynamaxing this. You're more of a supportive restricted, right? And the reason why it's good in a dual restricted is because then you have your other restricted that can deal most of the damage. And in this case, Groudon does that just fine. And the positive with Groudon here is that you bring the Sun Boys, right? Which are very good into a lot of things. Okay, and what you can do is make your Groudon slow and then go for Trick Room, so then you could win that potential Kyogre matchup as well. Because now you're faster than Kyogre and don't have to suffer the wrath of Water Spout shenanigans. But overall, as long as you can support the team with answers to Yveltal or Calyrex Shadow, Lunala does really well. You could even potentially Dynamax this, go for those max Phantasm defense drops, and then help Groudon's Precipice Blades deal enormous damage. Similar in the way that you can Dynamax Calyrex Shadow, right? So there's always that. But if you can think back to how we built Calydon or Calyrex Shadow Groudon, it's more or less the same way, but we're going to use a little bit of a different set than one you might think. So let's just go ahead and start building the squad. So along with Groudon here, what are you going to have? So the reason why Sun is so strong is because of the partners that it brings. You are going to get Venusaur, of course. Now you could potentially go with Zard, right, in the flying option, but we're going to go somewhere else. But again, Venusaur is great in the Kyogre matchup, great against those bulky water types, and with the rise of stuff like Seismitoad and Gastrodon, okay, Blastoise is still a thing. There's still a few Laprases running around, not as much as before, but just to have that grass type option is really good. And because of this move called Weather Ball, now you have something that could KO Zacian, especially since you'll be faster than in the sun, right? So, and let's not forget the Sleep Powder shenanigans. Sleep is just broken. If you can nail it, then you just put their Dynamax to sleep for potentially 3 turns, and then they just waste their max. So it's always an offensive threat, and you just don't know if the Venusaur is going to max. Is he going to go click Sleep Powder, or is he going to click a big G max move, right? So Venusaur, of course, really good in Sun. From here, what we want to do is look into something that can help intimidate physical attackers, something that also can do well in Sun, and I think Incineroar just does that. So again, you could potentially switch in your Incin to take that Behemoth Blade, or if a Calyrex is going for Astral Barrage, you can switch in the Incineroar to absorb and take that hit, and potentially get off that Intimidate. Venusaur doesn't really like Landorus, so you could always swap in your Incin to help reduce the damage of that Airstream, and then Venusaur can survive, take a hit, and go for a big G-Max Vine Lash, or KO something else with either the Earth powers, or the max flares, the max geysers, whatever weather is around, right? So Incin's coming. And then from here, I do like, instead of the Charizard, I do like Thundurus. So the reason why I like Thundurus is, you have to watch out for Yveltal. And I don't think Charizard does nearly enough into Yveltal as one might think. So I think the Thundurus is the correct one to bring, and I think we're going to go Defiant here, just so that we discourage Incineroar as well, right? Because Lunala doesn't want to take a Throat Chop from Incineroar, right? So if we lead Thundurus, we make them guess twice, or we punish them for bringing it, right? So we could always go Lunala Thundurus if they lead Incin. We can even go Thundurus Venusaur if they try and lead Incineroar. Many different combinations of the Sun Core that you can bring, and it's not hard to get it wrong. I mean, it's not easy to get it wrong, I should say, as long as you get in the right position. But overall, Thundurus is a great option on a Sun Core team like this. For the reasons I just stated. And you're also good into Kyogre. So maybe in some games where, for whatever reason, you can't really bring the Venusaur, you can always bring the Thundurus. And, Groudon doesn't want to take Intimidate either, so you could always go with Thundydon lead. You might Intimidate the Groudon, but then Thundurus gets you just get the +1. You can annihilate the Incineroar, and then just recover with the Groudon with Swords Dance. Okay? And then from here, I think, again, the last option, I do like, oh, that's Incineroar, we already have it. I do like the Grimmsnarl option, just to be able to slow the game down against potential Dynamax options, and just set up those screens with Reflect and Light Screen, reduce special damage, reduce physical damage. All right, you have Incineroar to further reduce physical damage, and what you can also do is, when you set up Reflect and then also pivot your Incin for an Intimidate, you can also EV this Grimmsnarl to be able to survive that Behemoth Blade hit. And then Zacian is kind of sad, right? But yeah, so this is the 6, right? This is a very standard 6, I would say. But it's just how we play with the moves, EVs, and item sets, right? So let's just go ahead and reveal the GIFs. We have Grimmsnarl, we have Thundurus, we have Incineroar, and we have Venusaur, right? So that's the 6. Now let's just hash out the EVs. So starting with the Lunala here. So basically we're gonna do the moves and the items first. So of course we're gonna go with the Meteor Beam. I typed it in the item slot. It's gonna be Power Herb, Meteor Beam. Okay, but of course we are gonna have our Stab Moongeist Beam. All right, then we'll have the Meteor Beam. I think you kind of have to go Meteor Beam on this. Without it, it just kind of sucks. Then you'll go for Trick Room. Okay. And this is what makes it threatening. Now here in the last slot, it's pretty standard to go Protect. Although what is kind of cool and something that you, the viewer, might want to play around with is Moonlight, right? So the reason why Moonlight is good on a Sun team is because, it's weather dependent, right? In terms of how much percentage you heal. So what is it, like 60 to 70% or something like that? So what you could do with Moonlight is, if Lunala is getting no, you can click Moonlight, go back to full health, and get your Shadow Shield back. So I think that's kind of cool. The fact that Lunala can do that. But there is some cases where you're gonna want to Protect and bait out that dark move, and then Moonlight just can't cut it. But it's something cool to consider if you want to play with a squad like this. But for now, we're just going to settle for Protect. All right, Groudon, very standard Groudon set. Citrus Berry, recovery, especially in the late game, is very, very broken. P-Blades, all right, Rock Slide, Stab, ground move, and then a Rock move. Then we have Swords Dance, just to be able to recover from Intimidates and Parting Shots if they happen to land it. Especially against Landorus and Incineroar, you're going to need to be able to get your attack back. And then finally Protect. Okay, and of course you have the Sun. So, what we can do with the Groudon, especially with the Citrus Berry, is be able to EV this, so that way on switching into Kyogre Water Spouts to take that Water Spout behind the light screen, survive it, and proc our berry, so that way we can take another one. So that way it's potentially a 3-hit KO. Alright, so that's our Groudon here. We'll show the EVs in a second, right? But we just want to get through the movesets first. So Venusaur. So a lot of people like Focus Sash on the Venusaur, but because we have the Grimmsnarl on the team, I'm going to go for a little bit more violence. We're going to go with Weakness Policy Venusaur. And this is going to catch people off guard quite a bit, especially if you're playing Lanner. And it's also good in Open Team Sheet, right? Because, if the opponent sees that you're running a Weakness Policy Venusaur, they're going to be a little bit more hesitant in trying to hit it with a super effective move because they don't want to give you a +2 bonus and have to deal with Groudon giving you a speed boost. So they're going to be a little bit more careful with the Venusaur, which means your Venusaur is going to stick around a little bit more than your opponent would like. And then even when your Dynamax is done, you can just go for Sleep Powders multiple times, right? Or just go for hard-hitting Earth Powers or Weather Balls. But from here, we're going to want Leaf Storm, Earth Power, right? And we already said we have the Weather Ball, and of course, we are going to go with the Sleep Powder in the final move slot. All right, so weakness policy: Venu, Citrus Berry, Groudon, Power Herb, Lunala. Now Incin. So because the Groudon has the Citrus Berry, we're just going to have to go for safety goggles on this. This is going to be good against potential Amoonguss Spore shenanigans. So, you know, if Lunala sets Trick Room and they have Amoonguss, you can always pivot your Incin into that Spore slot, and then you're fine. And then you can put pressure with Flare Blitz. Alright, speaking of Flare Blitz, that's the first move. Fake out pressure, so, you know, you could always lead Lunala Incineroar. You know, fake out one thing, so that way you stop one attack. And your Shadow Shield should help you withstand one Dynamax move, so that way you can get your Trick Room up. Alright, then from here, Parting Shot, of course, to weaken opponent's Pokemon and pivot for better positioning. And then finally, Throat Chop is really good. You need that dark coverage against the Calyrex Shadow Rider matchup, so it's always welcome. Thundurus here. So it's very easy to go with Assault Vest Thundurus, and I think I went with this in the Calyrex team, mainly because they always went with something like Foul Play or Crunch or, you know, Lash Out, and this turns into Max Darkness, right, which will drop special defenses, and then Calyrex Shadow can take advantage of that. But really, we're not really looking to do that with Lunala, although it would be nice. But I think what we're going to do is make the Thundurus a little bit more aggressive. And instead of the Assault Vest, you know, similar to how the Charizard with Stab, Life Orb, Max Airstream is going to hit hard, I think we want the same effect with Thundurus as well. So this is going to be Defiant Thundurus with the Life Orb. And you might say you might miss the bulk, but you kind of have the bulk with the Grimmsnarl screen set. So it compensates for the loss of the Assault Vest. Anyway, Wild Charge, Fly, you know, your 2 stab moves. Max Lightning is really good into flying types, like especially like Yveltal. This is the move that's going to help carry you against it. Stab, Max Airstream, you know, of course, you're going to want to give your Groudon some speed boost, your Venusaur some speed boost, and even Lunala some speed boost, because, you know, we're going to be going modest on this thing, and there's going to be some speed on this Lunala if we lead both. All right, and then finally, you can go Super Power here. I think that's a good move. You can potentially KO Incineroars or other things, but I think Brick Break is also really, really solid because you can break opponent's screens. So I think that's always valuable, especially now that Grimmsnarl is so prevalent in the meta. So Brick Break is going to be my option of choice. All right, and this way, you know, the drawback with Superpower is you lose your attack stat, you go -1. That Brick Break doesn't do that for you, so yeah, we're going to settle for that. And then Grimmsnarl, like Clay said, of course. Spirit Break, this is good against, again, the Yveltal matchup, and this is also good against something like Palkia. So yeah, you're going to need that fairy coverage overall. Light Screen, of course, Reflect. All right, and then finally, you're also going to want a speed control move. Now, you can go Scary Face. You can go Thunder Wave. I'm not going to tell you which one to run because I think they're both good, and it's personal preference depending on the viewer. This, of course, gives you the hacks. So even though if they switch out, they're still paralyzed, and you always have that potential thing that the opponent the opponent has that potential thing it has to worry about. You know, I don't want to get parried. I don't want to get parried. Every single turn they have to think about that. You know, Scary Face. The advantage here is first of all, it doesn't miss. Thunder Wave can miss, and then also you can stack the speed drops, right? So even if they're for some reason faster still after -2, maybe they have Tailwind up, you can click it again, and then now they're -4. And this way, the only way they can get rid of it is if they switch out, and then you can always punish them for trying to switch potentially, right? So Scary Face is always my tech here. So I believe this is the 6. So now let's go ahead and try and do the EVs. So with Lunala, we'll start with Lunala first, right? Typically what we want to try and do here is, at the very least, there's 2 options actually, and I remember this from Series 11. Either you EV this to live Urshifu Wicked Blow, or you EV this to live Life Orb, Calyrex Shadow, Ash Barrage. And I think, you know, Urshifu has dipped quite a bit, honestly. I haven't really seen that much Urshifu, at least not the dark one. Alright, so I think we can forego that option and still just EV this to survive the Calyrex Shadow Astral Barrage, right? So how are we going to do that? First of all, our speed tier, I think we're just going to go up to 28. This way, after an Airstream, we outspeed opposing Thunduruses, and then we can go for a Meteor Beam to potentially, you know, deal some big damage into it, and even maybe even KO it, depending on how much chip it's taken. Alright, now, from here, I think we're just going to go, I said Modest, right? Oh, no, we have to choose Modest. Alright, so we are Modest on this Lunala. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to go second bump here. So notice, where is it? Let's see. 108. Actually, I think we hit it here already. 6. Yeah, right here. This is actually the first bump. So notice here that after you invested 12, if you go to 20 investment, your attack stat goes from 174 to 176. This is the first EV bump for Lunala, and remember, every EV bump is 80 EVs invested. Okay, so there along this bar of special attack, there are 3 bumps where the attack stat goes up by 2 points. Okay, not just 1. So again, if you don't know what EV bumps are, you gotta comment in the video below and I'll explain it to you, because if you want to play competitive Pokemon, you gotta know what EV bumps are. All right, very, very important. So here we go, 176. So that means another 80 EVs invested. So if you go up to 100, that's the second bump where it'll go up by +2 attack. So let's go ahead and move it up slowly. So right here, I'm at 92. The next one will be 100. So this 185 will be 187. It'll skip 186. Boop. And there it is. So that's our first bump there. And then we can just go one more over like this, just so that we get a little bit better benefit from our +1 Meteor Beam. But anyway, for the HP stat, so we're just going to also optimize our weather chip. So I believe that's this, so 239, right? Why is 239 a good number? Because if you take out your calculator, let me just type that out real quick. Okay, if you do 239 divided by 16, you know, this is your sand and hail chip damage. That comes out to 13.3. Actually, wait, actually that's fine. Wait. Hold up. Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. I did 230. Yeah, I haven't had my coffee. So 239 is what I meant. Divided by 16 is 14.9, which rounds down to 14. All right, so you'll be only taking 14 HP points of sand and hail damage per turn. All right. Then from here, what you want to do, this is where the magic happens. 116 special defense is what you need with this HP combination to survive the Calyrex Shadow Ash Barrage, and I'll show it to you officially when we get to the damage calc section of the video, and then the rest you can just dump it into defense. Lunala appreciates those extra EVs in defense, right? So that's our Lunala spread. All right, speed tier, outspeed opposing Thunduruses after +1, and then you can live the Ash Barrage Calyrex Shadow along with optimized HP for the weather damage, right? So that is our Lunala. Here for Groudon, I also, now normally I would also try and do the same thing where I want to outspeed Thundurus and go for something like this or even something like this, but because we are on a Trick Room team with Lunala, I think we're going to want to be a slower Groudon. This way, you know, we can potentially win the weather wars against Kyogres. So I'm going to go 12 speed investment, and what this allows you to do is after a +1 Airstream, at the very least you outspeed the base 100s. So stuff like opposing Charizard, stuff like opposing Zapdos, after +1 you now outspeed them and you can hit them hard with a Rock Slide or Max Rock Fall if you need to, but you can't go for Rock Fall if you're Dynamaxing the Thundurus for +1. So forget about what I said. But anyway, still +1 you outspeed base 100s with the Airstream. Now from here, we're gonna go Adamant. Okay, we're gonna be a harder hitting Groudon. So normally I would try and either go for something like this for first bump. This hits really, really hard, but I think we're gonna go a little bit more and go second bump here. All right, 209, right? I think this is good. And then from here, just 228 HP, just so that we get a nice even number for our Citrus Berry recovery, 4 defense, and again all this special defense. And what this allows us to do is on switch in, we take the modest 252 Kyogre Water Spout in the sun, as I just mentioned, and then if you're behind screens, you can take another one, get the berry recovery, and then you potentially have a 3-hit KO. So that's the purpose of this EV spread. Take those Kyogre Water Spouts in the sun. All right, Venusaur, this is where things get a little interesting. So I think for my speeds here, first I'm going modest, right? I'm going to be bulky. I have my screen support, so I'm going to be a harder hitting Venusaur, even though I'm a little bit slower. But that's okay. I have Airstream support. I have, I have Scary Face support if I need it. And overall, I'm just going to appreciate the bulk. So, one thing you can do is 212. This is my number here, and what this allows you to do is outspeed those Cinderace speed creepers. Even though it's not as relevant now, I feel like as the meta progresses, the Cinderace will come back just a little bit, especially on those hyper offensive teams. So I think it's still worth respecting. But the main reason also for this, actually 126 does this, is even after opposing base 100s have a +1 Airstream, your Venusaur still outspeeds them in the sun. Okay, so that number is 252, and no, I'm sorry, it's 250. But we're going at 252 if we have 126 speed stat. So I like to outspeed other potential speed creepers for that and go to 127. All right, that is our timid spread. Okay, now from here, where do we want to go? So I think because we're going weakness policy, I think we can go up to 76. This is the first bump here, and you might say this is a very, very, very weak Venusaur. That's true. It's not going to be dealing that much damage, but again, how are they going to get rid of it if they don't hit it with a special attack move? The point of Venusaur, especially when you Dynamax it, is to get those damage over time going, right? So this way, stuff like Groudon or even Lunala can finish the game off in the back. Okay, that is the purpose of this Venusaur. All right, and then in the end game, you're bulky enough to be able to take those hits. So even if you miss one sleep powder, you have chances to hit another one, right? But from here, I'm just gonna optimize my HP here about 175, just so that way outside of sun, this is optimizing my sand and hill chip. Again, especially against those Kyogre teams. From here, just an even number in the special defense at 122, and then the rest can go into my physical bulk. Behind screens, this is going to be really good in taking those airstreams from Landorus, and also potentially surviving Zacian Behemoth Blades. All right, so that's our defensive investment. Yeah, Venusaur very much appreciates any kind of defensive bulk you can give it, whether it's Intimidate, Reflect, or just having a little bit of EV investment. This is good. All right. Now, Incineroar. All right, so I always like to say this about my Incineroar. I always like a little bit of a faster Incineroar. I like 95 speed, just so that for a couple of reasons. One, I get a faster fake out. Two, I have a faster throw chop, which will stop opposing Incineroars from going for their own parting shot or their own snarl. So we ruin their pivot option. And then three, in Trick Room, your parting shot goes last. So if they go for parting shot, they have to do it first, and whatever switches in, like a Calyrex Ice Rider, for example, then your parting shot goes next. All right, so you potentially parting shot that Calyrex Shadow Rider, and then you bring in something else. All right, so that's why those are three main reasons why I like to run a little bit more faster Incineroar. All right, you give up a little bit of bulk, but you compensate with the Grimmsnarl, right? So I think it's still okay. All right, so from here we'll go first bump in the Careful Nature, which is 132. Yep, 76 investment. Then we just have 4 attack, 244 HP, and 68 defense. And again, with this investment, after an Intimidate, when you bring Zacian to neutral, you can survive a close combat if they are running it. All right, so that is the purpose of this spread with the defensive investment as well. Thundurus, standard. We're not gonna do anything crazy unlike the other ones here. So we're gonna go Jolly, max speed, of course, and then just a little bit of optimized Life Orb chip. So 4 here, and then boom, 212 attack. All right, again, if you're trying to optimize for a Life Orb chip, you want to end your HP with 9 in the end, so 159, 169, 179, because you lose 1/10 of your HP per turn when you have the Life Orb. What's 159 divided by 10? 15.9. That rounds down to 15. So you're only taking 15 points of damage per turn, because if you broke the threshold and went to 160 HP, now you're taking 16 damage per turn. Why am I taking extra damage when I can just drop the EVs by 1 and then, you know, and be just fine and undercut the system? Okay, so that's our Thundurus. Lastly but not least, the Grimmsnarl. So the Grimmsnarl, this is going to be relatively standard. This is the same exact Grimmsnarl that we've been using since basically Series 11. Alright, maybe even Series 10, I don't quite remember. 84 speed is really good. You can outspeed other Grimmsnarls, and then after 2 airstreams, you outspeed base 100s as well. So if they have a late game Zapdos, for example, you can just go for Spirit Breaks, and then Zapdos is sad. Alright, so from here, we're going to go to the second bump here. I believe it's at 121. Boom, there it is. Just 4 attack. Alright, magic 103 prime number in the defense, and then the rest goes into HP stat. And again, the beauty here is with an Incineroar switch in, you can survive the Jolly Zacian Behemoth Blade. If it's adamant, it's a little bit of a roll, but if you want to stop that roll, you just do something like this. Boom, 156, and then you've calced for the adamantization. Alright, but if you don't care for that and you rather have a little bit more speed, then you just settle for the speed like this. Alright, so this is it. Alright, let's go ahead and create this paste here, and of course we'll recap it at the end of the video as well. But yeah, this is it. You know, you have 2 potentially strong Dynamax options with the Venusaur, Thundurus. The Groudon and Lunala can Dynamax, but they're not going to be doing it often. They're just here to enable the partners. Okay, and then a good late game Trick Room with Lunala is always nice. You have your support Pokemon like Incineroar and Grimmsnarl, the screens, the Intimidates, the Fake Outs, the pivoting positioning, the parting shots, always nice. Alright, so it's overall a relatively solid squad. So now let's just take a look at some damage calcs, just in case you didn't believe me in the first part of the video. Alright, so here's the first calc. So here's our Lunala set. And there's the Life Orb, Calyrex Shadow, and you can see that we do in fact live the Astral Barrage, guaranteed. No 6.3% chance or anything like that. It is a guaranteed live. Alright, you can set up the late screen if you want, if you're in that position, and you know, you still have a healthy amount of health after that. Healthy amount of health, what am I saying? But if not, what you can do is lead Incineroar, Lunala if they lead Calyrex. If you think they're going to lead Calyrex Shadow, and if they want, they can go for the Astral Barrage, but then you hit them right back with the Throat Chop, and then you know you have the guaranteed Trick Room that way. So I always think that's safe, especially against Calyrex Shadow. But yeah, you definitely live it. If it's for some reason, how about like the Dark move on Thundurus, or you know, or even like, I'm sorry, no, Yveltal can't do it. Actually, does it? I actually don't know that calc. Let's go Yveltal. Alright, let's go with the normal 68 investment HP set. Yeah, so like even Yveltal can't even do it. And then we're trying to set up Trick Room first of all. So there's that. What about if this Dynamax is, can you KO it? Oh yeah, it still does. Well, we have this, alright, and we potentially have this. So that's something interesting to take note of. But there's that. If there's the Thundurus with the Life Orb set, it's probably not going to have a dark move, but let's say for some reason it does. Let's say it has something like Foul Play. Can we live this? Dynamax? Yeah, we do. So even it'll do like max 89%. But again, this calc is for Calyrex Shadow, right? I was just showing like additional stuff just in case it comes up. But yeah, we definitely live it. So that's the main thing. Let's move on to other calcs. Okay, so this is our weakness policy Venusaur going against a Landorus. So let's say if they're like Lumberry Landorus and they're Jolly 252, 252, if they go for max Airstream and they're Dynamax and we're Dynamax, we are going to live the Airstream. So again, at most 89%, you know, you'll activate our policy, will be +2, and then we could almost KO this Landorus honestly with a +2 Gmax Mind Lash. It does quite a bit. And again, even after Airstream, the Landorus is still not faster than you as soon as you get in your Sun. What you can also do is potentially even pivot your Incineroar into that Airstream with Venusaur alongside, so that way it does less. So if that happens, look how much this Airstream does now. Just only about 50 to 60%, and Venusaur is just kind of chilling there. But what about if it was Life Orb? You know, because a lot of these Landoruses that don't have any redirection but are with Grimmsnarl, they'd like to run a Life Orb. So let's take a look at this. And let's see if you're going to need help from Incin or Grimmsnarl. Yeah, you are. So 87% chance to KO, even just by itself, Dynamax and Dynamax. If I have Reflect up, okay, that's better, right? If I have Reflect, 77% at most. And then if I already had Reflect and I Intimidate it, then about 52%. So that's not too bad. You know, very, very good. So this is a very bulky Venusaur. The other thing I do want to look at is the Zacian Behemoth Blade. Okay, so standard Zacian. But that's Dynamaxation. That doesn't exist. So without Reflect, it almost one-shots me. Jolly Zacian. But with Reflect, I have a chance. Yeah, I have a good roll to almost like the Landorus thing, right? And then what's also cool is if they do this. Wait, let me remove the +2. If they do this, I can also go potentially for a Max Flare if I survive, right? And if I go for Max Flare, let's show the Weather Ball. Let's see, where are you? Let's go Fire, because this is a Sun. Alright, so Max Flare in the Sun, 61, 72%. That's pretty good. Alright, that's about the same as our Max Quake damage, okay? Which is relatively okay. Alright, but you know, you're not going to KO it, but at least, you know, you can hit it hard right back, and then Groudon can finish it off, or even Lunala can finish it off with like Moongeist Beams after Trick Room. All right, so that's the main thing. So I showed you Landorus, I showed you Zacian, and those are really the main ones you want to worry about. But again, that's why you have Incin, that's why you have Grimmsnarl on the team. And then what I would do is I would lead Grimmsnarl, you know, Venusaur first, you know, have you know, Incin in the back, and then potentially Groudon as well. And in some cases, Lunala doesn't even come. But yeah, Venusaur will deal most of the damage there, while Groudon just cleans up with Swords Dance potentially. All right, on to the next one. Okay, so this is our Groudon set. But oh wait, no, it has a little bit more attack than this. 156. Okay, so now if we're looking at this now, potentially on switching in the Sun, right? So in the Sun, the Water Spout does this much, 65 to 74, 77.4. So you live it, you proc your berry. You can't take another one though, all right, unless you get up your light screen. So if this is already behind the screens, you can. You will live it, right? And the magic number is 50%. Yeah, we have a little bit above 1, but I'll take my chances. It's only 7.8% chance to hit KO. So when they go for the Water Spout, you drop below half, and then, or potentially drop below half, and then you eat your berry, and then you can take another one, right? So that's the main reason here behind this calc. And overall, I think it's solid. What about like Zacian Behemoth Blades? You know, just behind this bulk. Where are you? Standard Zacian, 252. Now again, you are fine here. If this was like Adamant Zacian, okay, 75 at most. All right, but then Precipice Blades can pretty much almost one-shot you. So you have to be, the Zacian has to be careful with what it decides to do, right? Because this is a lot of damage that's going into this Zacian here. But that's the main thing. If this was you know, Dynamax Kyogre shenanigans, I mean, I don't really calc for that, but you'll be fine. It really doesn't do that much damage. I'm trying to think. Oh, how about this? Rillaboom, Grassy Glide. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, custom set. So Adamant 252 Miracle Seed. All right, so we are gonna live that. We're not gonna live the Wood Hammer, but if we have Reflect, we are gonna live it. All right, so that's also another reason for this physical bulk. If this is Adamant 252 Miracle Seed Rillaboom, we will live the Wood Hammer, all right, from full health, activate our berry, all right, and then, you know, just get off an attack, you know, just deal some damage. All right, so there's that. And then, you know, if it was Intimidated, more or less the same thing. So yeah, those are our Groudon calcs. So we showed you the Groudon, we showed you the Lunala, we showed you the Venusaur. Those are the main ones. I already told you about the Incineroar. It lives the close combat from Zacian. I've shown that on screen many times. So just calculate yourself. But yeah, now let's just go ahead and get into our practice battles. All right, so right away, this is like the mirror matchup with Lunala, and he's got the Umbreon, and Umbreon Moonlight is always good with weather. But for some reason, he has Lunala Zacian. I guess, you know, he potentially wants to Dynamax the Lunala and then just go for those defense drops to help Zacian sweep. But then if you're going to do that, you might as well just put Calyrex on this, and then that's better. Or you switch the Zacian out for Groudon, and then now it's better. I mean, I don't, because then you enable the Charizard. I mean, I guess the Whimsicott has Sunny Day, but I don't agree with Whimsicott and Grimmsnarl on the same team. I don't know. But anyway, all right, we'll play this. So I'm going with Grimmsnarl. I'm going with Venu. So this way I can deal off a lot of damage in a small amount of time. But I decide to go for the Sleep Powder plays because Umbreon is annoying. I don't want to have to deal with it. All right, he goes to the Spirit Break. That's okay. All right, I don't mind that too much. All right, and then this is honestly just a free Swords Dance into for Groudon because he has one Mon that's sleeping and one Mon that's passive. All right, so now both Pokemon are asleep. So he does get the 1 turn wake on the Umbreon. Actually, it's technically a 2nd turn. So the Venusaur has been neutered quite a bit. So I'm just going to go into my own Grimmsnarl. All right, I'm just going to click Precipice Blades, deal a bunch of damage. All right, I'm surprised this Umbreon is not going for Foul Play. I feel like that would have potentially KO'd me. So I make the big brain play and I just Dynamax the Grimmsnarl here because the Groudon is my win con. And if it goes to sleep, I'm in big trouble. All right, so all I'm going to do is just go for... he goes for the Meteor Beam into my Grimmsnarl. That doesn't even do half. So there's the P-Blades. We chip the Lunala. We kill the Umbreon. And there's the Starfall. And now we set the Misty Terrain. Which means my Groudon cannot fall asleep, and then that all he has left in the back is probably Zacian, which can't really do anything because I have way too many weapons on the field. So yeah, that's one game. Okay, so this is Yveltal, right? So this is the one where it can be tricky for Lunala here, but honestly, whether he tries to lead Lapras or he tries to lead Incineroar or something like Regieleki, actually I don't even think he brings the Alecki into a Groudon matchup. But, he might want to try to bring Incineroar, right? For our Venusaur, for our Groudon potentially. But I feel like Thundurus is a great lead here, especially if he leads with the Lapras. He might bring the Amoonguss, trying to think, oh, he might go for Trick Room. But as long as I set the Electric Terrain with Thundurus, I should be okay. And if I remove it with Airstream, then I'm totally fine. So I'm going with... my Thundurus, and I'm going with my Grimmsnarl just to get bulky in the end game. He actually leads both of his restricted, Zacian and Yveltal. I thought he would max the Yveltal there, but he's smarter than that. He switches into a Amoonguss. But even then, he can't get his sleep going because I just clicked Max Lightning. So he takes the Max Lightning. Now, yes, he did KO my Grimmsnarl, but I did get the Reflect up, right? So now everything that I have is bulky for the rest of the game. And now I get this free switch in into my own Groudon, right? And now I can make my Groudon fast, and I can bait the potential Behemoth Blade into the Groudon, but he actually just goes for the greedy Swords Dance. This Cobra Barrier is not going to do anything. I am Life Orb. All right, so now my Groudon is very, very fast. All right, so here comes Instant. So he does drop my Groudon's attack, but remember, I'm Defiant. So now he made my Thundurus even stronger. And the Zacian just clicked Swords Dance and whatnot. So now it just dies to a Max Lightning. All right, and he may have clicked Fake out of my Groudon, but he was a goner anyway. So now here's the Yveltal, and that's not enough because I'm already +1. The Max Lightning is just going to do way too much damage. And in the end game, I'm just going to wrap it up here. So that's how that one went. Okay, this is another interesting one. So this is the Kyogre Rain match, right? So he does have the Kingdra and he does have the Urshifu, and I feel like a lot of what he has loses to Thundurus. But instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lead Groudon and Venusaur, right, and then have Lunala in the back for the end game. And by leading both of these, right, I'm forcing my opponent to try and guess which one is maxing. Am I clicking Sleep Powder? Because I have just such a flexible plethora of leads, and then my opponent just really isn't really sure what I'm going to try and do. So I feel like this is always a safe one. Groudon and Venusaur get the sun going. He goes with his own Thundurus, and there's his Kyogre. So I don't think this Kyogre wants to take a G-Max Vine Lash by any means. Yes, this Thundurus can potentially be Prankster. I don't even know. It could be, Eerie Impulse. It could be Thunder Wave. It all depends on what the idea is with this Kyogre here. But the point is I do have the sun, right? So now this Kyogre is kind of useless. So maybe he wants to switch this out. And I'm going to ignore it and just go for my Vine Lash, get my damage over time going. All right. So I maxed the Venusaur. He maxes the Kyogre. I'm surprised he stayed in, and he has Rain Dance, so that's why he stayed in, and that's why he maxed the Ogre. And if I were him, I would have just tried to remove the Groudon right away, but he wanted to click Hailstorm into the Venusaur. And I don't know about that one, because now he just procs my policy. But now the thing is, like, that's so bad, because if I clicked it into the Kyogre potentially is gone. Actually, I don't think it dies, but it does so much damage, and then you leave the Groudon to be able to switch out here. But yeah, so there's the berry. Okay, and there's Groudon's chip with the Rock Slide. And now after the Hail and the Vine Lash chip, now the Thundurus dies, and that's still good damage into Kyogre. So here's the Zacian. I'm going to go into my Incineroar just to try and survive a Behemoth Blade, but he actually targets the Venusaur instead. And then there's the Geyser, and he removes my Incin. But this is okay, because now I get my Lunala and my Groudon in at the same time, and I take away his Rain. Okay, and this is pretty much a free Trick Room, because I don't think he can take out both. Even with the Dynamax, and he actually just protects his own Zacian. I'm not sure why he did that. I thought he should have just been aggressive, but now I have the Trick Room up, and now he's in a kind of a difficult spot, because now I can just click Precipice Blades like this, and then everything just dies. All right, and then I even click Meteor Beam just to try and get some damage, but all I have is a +1, and all he has is an Urshifu, so now that just guarantees the win, because there's my Moongeist Beam. And I had Shadow Shield, so there was nothing really he could do. Alright, so now let's just go on to the last one. Okay, this is Kyurem White and Ho-Oh, so that's an interesting combination. I like the Gastrodon, I like the Porygon, I don't know about the Escavalier. But yeah, this is not too bad. I mean, I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to get bulky behind screens, take advantage of Ho-Oh's Regenerator boost, ability, and Kyurem also appreciates the screens, although it still dies to Behemoth Blade from a Zacian. But again, Kyurem is no slouch whatsoever. But either way, whether he leads the Ho-Oh or the Kyurem, I'm still going to go with Venusaur and Grimmsnarl just to mitigate some of that damage, get him to activate my policy, and then just try and finish in the end game with Incin and Groudon. So he goes for Fake Out. He thinks I'm going to go for Sleep Powder. I get the Light Screen going. He goes for Hailstorm, does a lot of damage. But I get my Vine Lash going, and I just remove the Grimmsnarl from play completely. So that's a good turn. Now the question is, what does he come in with the back? And it is Ho-Oh. So now I have to make a decision here. So I go for the Scary Face into the Kyurem to try and outspeed it. Now that means I will go down to the Ho-Oh. I understand that. I could have swapped into Groudon here, but then even with my attack, I'm not KOing anything. And then my Groudon could die to a Hailstorm. Okay, so I don't want to do that. So rather than that, I'd rather just plan for the next turn where I can outspeed the Kyurem with whatever I bring in if the Venusaur does die. So I Scary Face the Kyurem. I take the bullet from Ho-Oh, but now I can survive the Hailstorm, and now whatever I have can outspeed this Kyurem, and now I can start neutering it. So I go for Incineroar, and that's always good because now the Ho-Oh is intimidated, and now I can start weakening this Kyurem by going for parting shots, and he goes into the P2. Alright, there's the Reflect, and there's my parting shot. So I'm preparing for the end game against Ho-Oh. Now here comes the Groudon, and the Kyurem goes for Steel Spike, removes the Grimmsnarl, so that's okay. I got my screens, the Vine Lash chip is going, and the Kyurem is already -1. And here's Incineroar again. Alright, so there's my Swords Dance. This is relatively safe, and again, I'm neutering the Kyurem by going for another parting shot. I probably could have easily faked out, but that's still okay. All right, there's another Freeze Dry, and he procs my berry, but again the P2 is just trying to go for the hacks. I go for some Flare Blitz chip. All right, but here's the Rock Slide. It actually doesn't kill. I'm surprised. Now the reason why I went for Rock Slide is because this Kyurem has been neutered so much that I thought he would try and switch in the Ho-Oh, and then I can't even intimidate it anymore, but he stayed in with the Kyurem. He didn't actually try and swap it, so that's relatively interesting to me. Okay, but that doesn't matter because I protect the Groudon. I don't want to die to Freeze Dry or Tri Attack stuff. I know the Porygon's gonna recover, so that way I just try and go for the Kyurem. If anything, that should have been in turn. He switched into Ho-Oh, but he stayed in. So now, even though the Ho-Oh protects, I'm just gonna weaken the Porygon because I know the Ho-Oh can't really do too much. Because now the sun is gone, so the Sacred Fire is not doing as much, and I have the Reflect. The Rock Slide removes the Ho-Oh, And now all I have to do is just keep weakening this Porygon until he can't do that much damage to me anymore. And I'm still +2. And there it is. We wipe out the Porygon after a Flare Blitz and a combo with Precipice Blade. So overall, those were, you know, some practice battles. Alright, so now you saw how the team works, right? So again, you could max the Thundurus, go for interesting plays. There's a couple leads that I didn't get to showcase. Like you can go, again, Thundurus, Incineroar, you know, repivot your positioning, go into something like either Venusaur, your Groudon, or Lunala, and then just get those Airstream boosts going, and then, you know, speed boost yourself. You can go Instant Venusaur, where if they try to lead Landorus, potentially, you can, you know, survive and take that hit, and Dynamax the Venusaur, go for that, you know, Gmax Vine Lash chip, reposition with your Groudon, and now you have the Sun bonus going. You could go Instant Lunala, you know, click Fake Out, set up Trick Room, stop them from, you know, killing you because you have the Shadow Shield. You can go Grimmsnarl, Venusaur, again, you know, just to keep giving you some bulk, add those screens, swap out into Groudon, and then now you have the speed boost going. So a lot of very flexible leads, and then again, your Dynamax options are also relatively flexible, although it'll most of the time be Venusaur and Thundurus. Sometimes your Groudon can max, sometimes your Lunala can max, depending on the situation. I even maxed the Grimmsnarl in one of those games just because I didn't want to fall asleep. But yeah, you have a lot of cool options here, and it's a very good Sun team just in general. And Lunala, I believe, fits on this relatively well. So give this one a go. Give the pace a look. Try it out on Showdown. Let me know how it goes. Let me know what you think of this Lunadon team. Hopefully I explained some of the calcs and the EV spreads, but we'll be back with another Series 12 team building video in the next one. Have a good one.